and looking at Medicare and Medicaid, there's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of malfeasance. Each one is growing close to $1 trillion in cost, and about 80 million people are on Medicaid. And now Doge is finding out that some of the people that are on Medicaid and receiving Social Security have been dead for years. So I think this is really a very positive development, Doge. And, let's get healthcare back, so that putting the doctor and patient in charge of their healthcare and cutting the enormous size of government in this sector.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, we got a rare treat for us today. The author of The World's Medicine Chest, Sally Pipes. Sally, it's great to have you on the show again. It's been a while. Hey, first, we're hearing a lot about cutting down government waste and abuse, and you got to think that when it comes to healthcare, that's the mother lode, as it's over $1 trillion a year between Medicare and Medicaid. What do you think Mr. Musk's Doge people are going to come up with when they start looking through, which they are now, Health and Human Services, all the payments made, all the claims made? What do you think we're going to find here?
Well, I think it's most interesting. When Mr. Trump was reelected as president back in November, I had no idea that he would be taking such a broad brush and hit against the size of government. And so appointing Elon Musk to be head of Doge, Elon has hired a lot of young bucks who are obviously very free market and are interested in helping to cut the size of government. So I think in the healthcare sector, we're already seeing, with NIH cutting, these grants to medical research from about 50% of the grant down to 15%. And everybody is saying, oh, well, that means there won't be any money for research. What they're talking about is cutting down the administrative load that the universities take, rather than going to the scholars. And so I think this is a very important issue. I think we're looking at Medicare and Medicaid. There's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of malfeasance. Each one is growing close to $1 trillion in cost, and about 80 million people are on Medicaid. And now Doge is finding out that some of the people that are on Medicaid and receiving Social Security have been dead for years. So I think this is really a very positive development, Doge. And, let's get healthcare back, so that putting the doctor and patient in charge of their healthcare and cutting the enormous size of government in this sector.
Hey, so what about the concept that there's a lot of illegal immigrants collecting on Medicare and Medicaid as well? You think that's happening?
Oh, I definitely think so. And of course, in California, illegal immigrants are entitled to sign up for Medi-Cal, the California's version of Medicaid, and then the Dreamers as well under the DACA program. So I think there is a lot in that. And when Barack Obama signed Obamacare into law in March 2010, there was not going to be any exchange coverage for illegal immigrants. And so, but now when Joe Biden was still president, he was encouraging illegals to be able to get health care on the exchanges. And so I think, we need to not allow illegal immigrants to get exchange coverage or private coverage. I mean, Milton Friedman, my mentor, used to say, if we could stop providing free education, Social Security, and health care to illegal immigrants, not so many would come. I mean, the ones that do come want to come for a better life, but we have this whole illegal problem that needs to be dealt with.
So yeah, that's an interesting concept. Trump just signed an executive order banning all benefits going to illegal immigrants, whether it's health care, welfare, Medicare, Medicaid, any benefit that the government bestows. I guess that would include Section 8 housing, all of that stuff. So, a little off topic here, but what do you think of that? How much do you think that will cut back? Have the benefits, the hotels, the food stamps, all of the things we've been giving them, cars, businesses, houses, you name it. Once that's gone, what do you think that will do? Will we see a lot of self-deportations?
Al, I don't know about self-deportations because it's pretty nice here compared to living, say, in Guatemala, in squalor conditions, or the Dominican Republic. And so, but I do think it's going to cut the size of government and also reduce the number of people. I know in San Diego, one facility is already shut down because since Trump has, been after the inauguration, they have no people coming to their place. So I think we're going to see a lot of people not coming. And if we can get rid first of the people who are, robbing homes of wealthy sports people and just cutting this all back, it's going to be a great start to cutting the size of government and maybe even cutting taxes for people like us, because, government doesn't pay out all these payouts. We pay in taxes to support all of this stuff. So
just the idea that they won't have to print up as much money would hopefully lower the inflation rate, right?
Right, exactly. So, that we definitely want to lower inflation. And we want, as Steve Moore and Steve Forbes keep saying, we've got to extend the tax program so that taxes will be down. But if the tariffs come through, Trump put the tariffs on delay for a month for Mexico and Canada. But if those tariffs come through before the re-upping the tax cut, it could be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Hey, so we get into another topic, speaking of Elon Musk, and that is, of course, AI. And it seems like it could really have an impact in healthcare more than almost any other sector of the economy.
Right. Well, I don't know about you, Kerry, but at my vintage, AI is sort of beyond. When every time I look at it, I think, oh, how does this work? It's sort of beyond my pay grade. But I do think AI. Just if when you're typing something on your iPhone and it anticipates what you're going to say, and sometimes it's not the right thing. So it is a really powerful tool, and I think particularly in healthcare, we're going to see a lot going on there. We'll probably see a reduction in doctors' offices and hospitals having to have so many people in the paperwork division. We're going to see doctors will probably be using AI for diagnoses, which could be good. We still want to have a doctor determine whether that diagnosis that AI does is the correct one for the patient. But I think it's going to actually help reduce the cost of healthcare significantly if things go ahead under President Trump and under what Elon Musk and his team are trying to do. Because certainly Elon Musk is sort of he is the computer wizard in this whole thing.
Yeah, well, so many things like they can't figure out how to upgrade the air traffic control system. Call in Elon Musk, right?
Yes, exactly.
They don't know what they're doing with rockets going here and there. Call in Elon Musk. Whenever he had a T-shirt on the other day that said tech support.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And he is fully educated for tech support. He's obviously incredibly bright. And so people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, we're really seeing, Peter Thiel has always been free market, but, it was unclear with Zuckerberg and Mr. Musk, but they're certainly getting behind the ideas that Mr. Trump is putting forward in cutting the cost of government. And many of these firms, which are themselves had a lot of employees and maybe many that aren't needed, or and I think the important thing is getting people in the government back to work. Only 6% of employees in the federal government went back to work after COVID. Why should we be paying, all these people huge salaries and we, the taxpayer?
Absolutely insane. And but it's the government. Like, Sally, how can anybody possibly object to cutting waste, theft, corruption, inefficiency, all of these things? Why would you be opposed to it? Like, the average American, unless they're personally benefiting from it, would have to be in favor of this, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're running your own company, I mean, you want to keep your organization tight so that you can make a return on your investment. And most people do not, most people are honest people. They're not engaged in fraud and inefficiency. We need to be an efficient nation, and we need to have an educated nation if we're going to be able to. Mr. Trump talks about returning manufacturing to the U.S. Well, we have a slight problem. We have many rules and regulations and mandates that make it difficult to just start building a manufacturing facility today. We have a workforce that comes out of the K-12 education system that is not educated. And then we have high union wage rates that, you can't hire people at, where productivity is, your wage is tied to your productivity. So we really need to make some major changes, and people in the federal government need to get back to work, or as Mr. Trump says, they will be put on leave if they don't turn up.
So how many of these people can be eliminated? We got like a couple million government workers here. 90% aren't even in the office. I always said I had this theory, like let's have a snow day where they say only essential workers come to DC. You've heard it so many times. And then anyone who doesn't show up at the office that day, you just fire because they're not essential.
Exactly. Well, a longtime friend of mine who was the former head of the Federal Trade Commission under Ronald Reagan, Daniel, used to say, I did everything Ronald Reagan asked me to do and less. So, I remember being in Washington a few years ago, it was before COVID, going to see Tom Price, who at the time was the new Secretary of HHS. And it was a snow day in Washington, but the snow never appeared. But the taxi rates were you had to pay the taxi rate based on a snow day, and there was nobody at work, but there was no snow. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's Washington works like no other place in the world, right?
I don't know if you saw, but the mainstream media has been interviewing people who've lost their jobs, and they're saying, well, I have an apartment, I have a home. How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my mortgage? I've lost my job. Well, you should have thought about that, doing a job that probably you weren't working at very hard and you weren't making a return on investment.
Welcome to the real world, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's what everybody else has to deal with. Hey, so you think that ultimately Trump's Doge plan here, Musk, you think it's going to be successful?
Well, I think it is. I mean, the question is, who... there's a lot of people out there, union members, a lot of people, progressives, Democrats, that want to, stop and halt this program. But, Mr. Trump is not one who gives in easily. I don't know whether some of these issues will go to the U.S. Supreme Court, but I'm optimistic that he is going to be able to get things done, and we will have a smaller, more efficient government, and it'll benefit all of us and allow young people to be entrepreneurial again, rather than sitting at home, going to the gym, having their Starbucks coffee, and not really working.
Yeah. Well, hey, from your mouth, we can only hope that it's so, because it's been a long time in coming. Should have been done a long time ago. There is really nobody else in the position of Trump to be able to do it, because you really had to be a Washington insider to really be able to pull this off. And you needed a team that came from outside the Washington insiders, and then you just needed the force of will to pull it off. And it looks like Trump's going to do it, doesn't it?
It does, yes. And here's to it happening. I'm optimistic.
All right, Sally, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on. Just tell us where we find your work, where we get your book.
The World's Medicine Chest, How America Became the Pharmaceutical got pharmaceutical supremacy and how to keep it, available on Amazon.com, and our website, www.pacificresearch.org. You can find all of my work there.
All right.
Thanks, Kerry.
Thank you so much. Hey, if you've got a question for Sally, myself, KL@KerryLutz.com. A link to her site and to the book will be found on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. When you're there, just ask that you please sign up for your free newsletter, like over 70,000 other FSN members have. Sally, always a pleasure. Be well. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Kerry. You too.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.